Now we will start question and answer for 15 minutes.
Could Your Holiness explain a little bit more about what you mean by the words method and wisdom?
탑도 싫어고 된다더래. 탑도 싫어고 된다더. 다한다. 낭배 처가 나라네. 탑도 싫어 샤윤도 대양 쪼다. 탑 용수 쪼고 쓰는데도 다 탑도 싫어 쪼용하는 신이 샤베이나. 이게 수구 그다음 제부 산지에서 수구 주야기 다 수구 주지 락지 정에도 저 탑기차 쓰면 될 탑스. 아니 이게 가서래 툭 남진 주야기 아니 다 주층에디 다 주층에서도 다 락지 향해들라 아니 이식소 싫었어.
When we speak of method and wisdom in Buddhism, method is referring to primarily those actions or those things which will act as a cause for being able to generate a form body of a Buddha or a Rupa Kaya. So there are various practices that will act as causes for those, whereas when we speak of method, this is referring to those actions or things which will go to build up a store of deep awareness or a collection of insight which will act as a cause for achieving the mind or the omniscient state, the omniscience of a Buddha.
다양 든데를 처음에 배제. 시담바니 여치버봐. 다 낭배 좀로 시드전에 시담바니 람탑시니 제부꾼이 시야베.
A general presentation in the Dharma is of the two truths as the basis, then method and wisdom, this pair as the path, and then the two types of body or corpuses that a Buddha has as the result.
단 제부꾼이 있어야 돼. 조디 현든 수구사체. 현지체도 미버 인도잖아요. 고방 커라. 현지체도 미니 당원도 제베시 인도 다시 리샤 가다 현지체도 미버 인도잖아요. 디 현든 무엇 중에 디 수구체. 다들 현든 수구스. 단 진짜 현든 수구지 영화라. 아니 구토 모이에미 거베 인도잖아요. 아니 구토 모이에미等于 수구 되는 것도 제발로 추군 것도 마셔봐. 야야 말봐. 이나야 추구띠 다 랑군도 시험시마도 샹 무슨 나가 보내 현재情形 매번 인도전에 될 랑도 추구스민다. 그 규라면 샴도 샤야래. 군니스는 랑도 추구 샴도 수스.
In terms of these two types of bodies or corpuses that a Buddha has, the corpus of the mind of the enlightening forms of the body of a Buddha are things which are actually involved with being for the benefit of others, because they're the things that others can actually meet with and which will actually directly bring about benefit to others. So the enlightening forms or rupakaya of a Buddha are things which are for the benefit of others. Now, where the body of a Buddha is, then the mind must also be present, because body and mind are inseparable. Therefore, if one has not achieved the omniscient state, the omniscient mind of a Buddha, one will not be able to have infinite forms, enlightening forms that can go and benefit others. So we have the enlightening mind of a Buddha, which is something which is for the benefit of oneself, or a meaningful purpose for oneself, and this is the basis then for allowing one to have meaningful benefit for others with one's actual physical bodies of a Buddha.
다 탑이 리더나 근데 레슬라베이나 샴바다 닝지다 다시 서바다 성도 자리 그냥 짐바 수좀 서바 준주도 자리 탑이 쳐체 봐. 다 돈이도 왜 싫어도 싫어 붙여체. 다디 쿼터 제가 상담 주면은 다 저가 돈이도 왜 싫어서 지르다. 다 내가 가사가 담에도 왜 싫어서 처음으로 와. 가사가 유튜브에 자유주 동에 다 자유주 동에 다 들으려다 가서 담에도 왜 싫어. 아니 랑심에 왔다고 싫어. 이내다 조동이도 싫어 그래. 아니 미다고도 왜 싫어. 뒤에 폐지 싫어고 쳐라. 폐지 루면로. 이내 조디 동이도 싫어 그래.
Now, if we ask what are the things within the categories of method and wisdom, then in the category of method, there is the far-reaching attitudes of generosity, tolerance or patience, love, compassion, and so forth. And on the side of wisdom, what would be included are the various types of wisdom. Primary among them would be the wisdom with which we understand a lack of true existence or voidness. Although you could include the wisdom of understanding impermanence and so on, and the different types of emptiness, it's primarily the wisdom with which we understand a lack of true inherent existence. Buddhism teaches that innumerable sentient beings want to or have to be liberated. This infinite number can make one hopeless. Is there a hope that all can be liberated? When we think of infinite sentient beings or limited beings, this is something which...
generally speaking. Not sentient being, the Jidam ben Changju Sem Malam Dabula, Ben Changju Sem Malam Dabulia, Duya Mabet Malam Kagua. Do you dig a bit into pair Pingdua? Understand?
Their prayers. When you say that. Just it's very loud.
In general, it is helpful to think even of things which are impossible to establish, to realize. And this is helpful for developing one's own resolution and determination to practice. So this in general is true, and it is also the case for bodhisattva, who generate many prayers which are in fact impossible to fulfill.
But no call tires, call time security. Central tires and time. Call time, central time.
In general, when we speak about samsara, uncontrollably recurring existence, it's something which has no end. And likewise, when we think of sentient beings or limited beings, they also are without any end or infinite. Likewise, the Buddhas are limitless.
Buddha time in Buddha Malam Gamashim Kangakimua, Buddha Yonzas Levision to do Malam Gamtua.
So, is there an infinite number of Buddhas? There is no problem to pray to the infinity of Buddhas.
Just one. But I'm going to say, but I'm a drum shouchuna, rather a drum to generate shouchuna. Touch on Yamarba. In a drum Yonzola, the delicious in love, in a good touch yet to do.
Although there is an infinity of atoms, it is still possible to say that all the atoms exist in such and such way. So mentally we can summarize all the infinity of particular phenomena. So in the same way, we sentient beings are infinite in number, but we can summarize them in the infinity of sentient beings and develop the resolution and the courage, the determination to liberate all of them. Now if we ask the question, is it possible that all sentient beings may become Buddha?
That's something Merungori, Julia, Ranshin Namda Yeva China, some Daminani, and San Gerunshini, Yeva Subjari. Inaya Simjat Koratame in Duzane, so that the San Yeva Turj Isam Kausari. They have a message.
It is possible for all sentient beings to become enlightened.
Each
individual one, because each individual one has the various purities and potentials within their mind streams. However, when we try to conceive of all of them actually having achieved enlightenment, of that actual time when that will come about, that may be quite difficult to think of. But if we are thinking in terms of expanding our hearts out to all beings and to benefit all beings, then that surely will benefit a few of them. But if you think, oh, there's infinite number of sentient beings, there's too many, and then you give up, then you're not going to benefit anyone. How can we assist others who suffer, like patients who are mentally disturbed and very sick people? How can we help others to end their suffering and get rid of the causes of their suffering? In general, when someone is extremely ill or suffering in some great way, that's a ripening of previous karma. And when the karma has already ripened, such as somebody being blind already, then that's something which one cannot reverse.
Beside medical treatment, then I think, you see, through meditation or through some kind of some recitation, recite some certain mantras. Now it depends performer, right? The quality of the performer.
So in general, if we think of situations aside from helping others with medical treatment, then it is possible to do certain meditations or perform certain mental acts which can be of help to others. To recite mantras, for instance. However, the main ability to be of help comes from the side of the person themselves who is experiencing the difficulty.
This one. Next.
Your Holiness said that the Jonangbas, the ones who assert other voidness, could achieve realizations. What level can they achieve, and can they gain liberation?
Oh, liberation you want liberation you want draw to tell you 말해. 전환 다다 가소래. 된도 다. 직사는가. 직사는 되게 힘들어. 샤워 군다기 동배 용주 된주시 개랑도가 주바랑 쉐기야래. 다데 소르미를 따와로 차이고야래. 타고도 돼요 말이야. 다지단 난저베 당가게 냠링기 지다 탑기 냠링기 차네. 탑기 냠링기 차네. 지 난저바 칼라 강성도 따고 여도 되는 용구야래. 내 되게 살들이.
In general, following the view of other voidness as asserted by the Jonangbas, one cannot attain liberation, the reason being that this view of other voidness is a view of asserting true unimputed existence. It's saying that the fact of other-powered phenomenon being devoid of totally imaginary ways is something which is, as a thoroughly established phenomenon, is truly existent. So it's asserting true existence.
Right. Kasa yungru. Xiang Gun Da Yi Dao Wei Yungru Dinru Xie Duo Da. Gunzhou Rangdong Zhou Da. Gunzhou Rangdong Tuandam Xiandong Si.
So they assert that the relative level.
这历史里面那只有吧，历史里面那有的就的，滚走让东是吧？但团他们先东，团他们可能主要让啊，许多。
So the relative level is something which, on the relative level, things are self-void, but on the ultimate level, they are not self-void. It's the other voidness.
Voidness, 先移动。
Devoid of something else.
Yes, 可能主要让。
It itself is established, however, it is devoid of something else, something other.
主要让啊，主要搞主义那个主要。
And so it's something which is positive, established, and independent. So with that view, one cannot achieve the path of preparation and above. Path of application and above. Second path.
This one, yeah, good.
What I was speaking primarily about during the first session.
No, up to Dharma.
Was up to the Dharma.
Now Sangha Tsenibadi, Tagi Lavagi, Golam to the Chukunjo Jula getting it, Pakak into Tsenibache. That Dindegi, Kashure, talk about the Jula Kimi, Soji Gindu. When the Shita Yen Sharia, any Gindungi turtle share. Soji Giron, Shita Yen Gindu.
When we speak of the Sangha jewel is referring to those who have achieved the actual true cessations and true stoppings and true paths of the mind on their mind stream. So this is referring to the highly realized beings or the Aryas and above. However, so that's primarily the Arya Sangha. But when we speak of ordinary beings as members of the Sangha, then when we talk about a gathering of 4 or more of these, then this can act as a representative of the Sangha. From the Mahayana point of view, those who have achieved the first level of highly realized mind, or the first bodhisattva bhumi and above, would be included within the Arya Sangha. So when we speak here of the Buddhas, the Dharma, or the preventive measures, and the community of the Sangha, these are the 3 jewels of refuge that give us safe and sound direction. And the way that we approach this is, first we get an understanding of the 2 levels of truth, then based on that we derive the 4 noble truths, and then on the basis of that we derive the 3 jewels of refuge.
This one.
This is the way in which it's derived in terms of the text called Prasana Pada, the clear words, and the filigree of realizations are Abhisamaya Alamkara.
That didn't Sangye Churda come sinning. That come the Arshim in Busin, the other Shama should return.
So within this first verse, the clear evolved ones, preventive measures, community, these we have discussed as the 3 jewels, and the next is the source, which is referring to Buddha nature, and this will be explained below.
다전에 도진내 균 디다랑생이기 젠저와 구름지신 숨기 개변도 링실래니 내숨 릭샤의 신이 런던 개슈 이야와래 신 다 지금 전다 인부주 샤요나 도소소네 셰주시기 봐 아드디 도진내 dum부디 도소소네 셰주다 숨기 원주 개변슈베 너 셰주시니 단 도진이 셰주신 다 숨계기 너네 링시급네 겹숨도 셰두스 아니 항마시 캄로서베 항마시부디 아니 런던 청주 삼바다 야와 산제기 이 최기 야와 셰베 급네 아니 가소레 도진네 항마시부터 숨부두스 두스레 딱게면.
So these are the 7 points that are diamond strong. The sequential connection of these that is due to their own defining characteristics in the order in which they are to be understood is as in an exposition on a theme requested by Dharani Raja. From its introduction, one is to be aware of 3 of its points, while 4 from its delineations of the measures of those with the knowing attitude and the triumphant ones. So the source in the sutras for all these 7 points can be taken in 2 ways. There are individual sutras from which each of these points derive individually, but then also there is one sutra, namely this one mentioned in the text, an exposition on a theme requested by Dharani Raja, in which all the points are presented. From its introduction, then the first 3 of the 7 points derive, whereas the other 4, the second 4, come from its chapters which deal with the measures or the dharmas of those with the knowing attitude, the bodhisattvas, and the measures of the triumphant ones or the Buddhas.
템바치고 원도 챘네 봐. 템바치고 원도 챘. 템바치고 원도 챘. 아니 나라도 저거 찍리야. 지 감이야 세. 템바치고 원도 챘. 나라도 규가 감이야. 감이 정말 중요하지. 구름시에 있는다. 상계래 최래 박배 초스. 토머 상계충. 상계지된 주. 최대 냠소랑 발래. 다 룽기 최대니 룽기 최대 냠소랑 발래. 아니 도괴 최규르게니 박배 초충. 대대비 군조 숨기 겐 대대비니 간다 신규기 뒤에 초숨 대 겐래 아니 랑기 규라 다디 닝부 이시 사디 야 상제래 야 자라 마 캄코랑 간 자라디 절루메라도 다디 샤과 맵체 샤과 맵체 다 간다 아니 딘딘데베다 초 신규기 뒤에 초숨기 아니 투지견래 아니 랑규기 캄 정말 장대스다 캄세 신규 봐 사다세 봐 캄야 릭사바 지 캄세베 권에스 아니 림신 람라럽데 캄장베 타르 아니 정주 톱데 정주 달라 땜베 또로서베 유연된 남당 아니 심진 신기 규례 대대베 아니 캄 가서 다 장을 제약이 아니 틀레 디게토요 아레스 그런 루시아리.
As for the third verse, this is speaking in terms of one presentation here, and in terms of that, it presents the order in which these 7 are to be understood. So first we have the clear evolved, or the Buddhas, and based on being a Buddha, then the Buddhas give forth or indicate the preventive measures, or the Dharma, and then from these indications in the scriptures and so forth that they give of the preventive measures of Dharma, then you have the community, which are the things that they themselves practiced. Then you get the highly realized community or Sangha of those who practice it as well. Now from this community, one can understand the essential factor, deep awareness, which is the source up to its ultimate attainment. This is referring to the Buddha nature, or the essential factors of deep awareness and so forth, which is the source within all these members, which will allow them to reach enlightenment. So attaining to that deep awareness, one attains to the supreme state of purified growth. So when one depletes the various stains or gets rid of the stains that are obscuring this source or essential factors within everyone, then one achieves the state in which all of them have been depleted, all these stains are depleted. That's the state of enlightenment or purified growth. When one has that state of enlightenment, then one possesses the powers and so forth. These are the qualities of that state of enlightenment. And possessing all these qualities oneself, then one possesses the measures that bring meaningful benefit to others. In other words, one has the enlightening influence to be able to then help bring about the depletion of stains from other people's Buddha natures, so one is able then to help bring them to enlightenment. So it's in this way that one understands the order of these 7 points. So after this verse, the third verse, which presents these points in order, then the verses which follow after that present the actual 3 sources of safe direction or refuge.
지바다전 지버시 세야기 지버 직대 원도셔니 영주 사여배 원도셔베 샤바직 야 긴지기 지바 영주 사 매배 원도셔베 샤바직신 샤바메다 니유 나간다 저로 과자네 개바 체크도 마도 도시 직미 딱배 남던과 켄세제 도지 초는 동행 요구卷제 진 나저特地 기고 태좀 지번 징제 달라 두신 다디 다들 말하니 가서래 디 주산네 다 규라메 다 규라메 슝디기 단다마 샤유르선에 슝코랑 그 투모인베야 거주르디 마식 샤단 콜라 가서래 너네 숨주 찍고 봐 너튼 찍고 거버들라야 단주랑 그 타녀에서 뒤뒤지 타녀로 찍다 다셔베 튼 대단한 더 뒤셔버더라 슝다가네 타녀로 찍다네 여도 dom으로 때문에 여도 디니우디 아니 대니 드셔지겨 도스는 숨숨숨 대선 숨숨숨 소리치 패지 도셔 슝마자
Now the way in which this text explains, we start here with the 4th verse. I bow to the one who, with no beginning, middle, or end, and a serene stillness, has what is clear-minded and full evolved himself, becoming clear and evolved from his own aspects, and once clear evolved, shows fearless, or the word can be spelled without, either with or without the sa suffix at the end of the word jik. And so it can be taken either as fearless or as non-perishing, who shows either fearless or non-perishing, constant paths of the mind to bring realization to those with no realization, and who, holding the supreme sword and diamond-straw enlightening scepter of omniscient awareness and intense loving concern, cuts down the sprouts of all problems and smashes the walls of indecisive wavering that are surrounded by a dense growth of varying outlooks. Now, one of the... So this is an abbreviated showing of the point. So then the next verse, the 5th verse, the state of clear evolvement is unaffected, spontaneously accomplishes all, is not realized under the circumstances of others, possesses omniscient awareness, intense loving concern, and powerful ability, and possesses a meaningful benefit for both. This verse takes the essence of what is explained in the 1st verse, in other words, the abbreviated showing of it, and then lays it all out, giving specific names to each of the points, or identifying each of the points.
통모 유타메바 정신인신 되마체 시와 최지 구신시 튼지 주시 자와 소소랑의 도시시 현지진지 도미바 대단능수 도시 켄 람드치는 투저와 뇌베이시 투지 동행 유무 뻥시로 당부숨지 랑된데 치마숨지 현든 인사되기 다 대전샤샤바 디다 대전 dü니 민기 단샤바 니부디 다바 다니샤도.
And then the next 3 verses, because it has a self-nature with no beginning, middle, or end, it is unaffected. Because it has a serene, stilled corpus encompassing everything, it is spoken of as spontaneously accomplishing all. Because it is to be realized by each one individually, it is not realized under the circumstances of others. Because it has the realization of these 3 aspects like this, it has omniscient awareness. Because it indicates the paths of the mind, it has a heart of intense, loving concern. It has powerful abilities because it can bring about the riddance of problems and disturbing attitudes through deep awareness and a compassionate, sympathetic heart. With the first 3, there is meaningful benefit for oneself, while with the latter 3, a meaningful benefit for others. The technique that's followed here in the presentation in the text, then, is with these last 3 verses just read. It takes the meaning which was given in the first verse, and it takes the giving of the identification of each of the points, which is given in the second verse, and then it combines it together in order to explain what's going on with this entire point that's being explained. So this is the technique which is followed in the presentation of the material in the text.
That's Sangye said the country Reslam. Dumachellos of a Yende Yadan Dambachilas, any Sangye Sigioris.
So it's not necessary to go through a complete commentary on each of the words of the text, but if we ask what is a Buddha, or the state of clear evolvement of a Buddha, it's a state which has 8 qualities, the first of which is it's something which is unaffected or unconditioned.
That did turn my share into Zane, Yigi, Dirt Tunga, Kanshi Tomo, Uta Me Shi Sheni, Mari, Uta Me Sadimra. Della, that Shamne, Jabaka, Tomo Uta Meva is any Tomar Kiawa, pardon never. Tama Jibur Yua, de Dinidavita, Jinji Nasum, the Terre, Ranshin Bichina, any Dumashavins.
So when it says it's unaffected, it is referring back, when it says in the 5th verse, the state of clear evolvement is unaffected, it's referring back to the, I bow to the one who with no beginning, middle, or end, from the 1st verse, and it is explained in terms of the first part of the 6th verse, because it has a self-nature with no beginning, middle, or end. So because this state does not have a birth in which it's a birth, or in the beginning, it doesn't have an abiding in the middle, or isn't something which perishes at the end, it has this type of self-nature, the state of clear evolvement, and therefore it's something which is unaffected or unconditioned, having no beginning, middle, or end, or no true arising, abiding, and perishing.
Wow. Dichuni Dumasha Imbe Chane, Dujinji start to Kiawama, Taiwan never never. Gabamere Chane sometimes Gio Howry. Daya Chunis Lemnita, Kasure. Tishawana, Chunyang, Machuyang, Shannon the Chuni never Konao, Son and Shingi, Yachi Chuni Dene, Tenjile, Quagiri.
So we can think of it in terms of having that this nature, or self-nature, is something which the nature itself is not created from causes and circumstances, and so it has no beginning, middle, or end in that sense of not arising, abiding, and ending in terms of being created from causes and circumstances. But also it can be commented upon in terms of this self-nature, or nature of reality, is something which has always been the case with no beginning. So that's another way of taking this.
That do much of a sandilla, Rondon 런던 군지안도 런던 샤게 생기들 송도 런던 시작거리요 런던 시작거리 그 소야리야 아니 교진지 두마차바스 즉 랭윤지 두마차바스 즉 양가고 머리 파자에서도 사미기 레기 왕게 두마차바스 즉 딘데기다 두마차로 망구스톤
In the commentary on this line by Rongdun Shejak-Punrik, he explains unaffected or unconditioned being in terms of not affected by or conditioned by causes and circumstances, that's one level, not being affected or conditioned by impulsive behavior or karma and disturbing attitudes, that's another level, and then a third level is not affected by the potentials of the disturbing attitudes.
This one.
Or the karma or the impulses associated with confusion.
Pena sanjeji chugu ngoni gudabul chashana da chugu ngoni gudabul chashana gyujinji dumachi batache.
If we speak of the essence body, the corpus of essential nature of a Buddha, this is something which is unaffected. This nature is unaffected by causes and circumstances.
그래서 다양 pena sanjeji yeshi chugu gudabul chashana gyujinji dumachi bata membache.
Whereas
lanyunji dumachi batache.
Whereas if we think in terms of the wisdom Dharmakaya, or the corpus of awareness that encompasses everything, this is something which we can't say is unaffected by causes and circumstances, but rather we would have to say it's unaffected in the sense that it's unaffected by karma and disturbing attitudes.
다시는 가야 돼. 다가는 시간다 때 산지지 29구 때 교진이 dü마체 교진이 dü체바데 때 이나야 아들라바는 신기 랭윤지 교진이 dü마체바다 대상도 마세베 dü제 몰라 다 dü제 몰라야 꾸사도 낭야 꾸파가 제하게 다 dü제 몰라야 나에 깨와 가베 다 집어서래 대 딘제기 그냥 긴지 매딩에 딘제기야 긴지 매딩 직시 다양 산지지 수구더블 차샤나 다 수구변은 쭈구더블 차샤나 야 뒤제 몰라야 뒤직을 낭 뒤직을 가지고 봐 딘제기 야 낭가기 긴지 예등에 긴지기 뒤마셔도 매매체 다 이시 추구디 딘제데 다 뒤제 몰라야 뒤직도 낭 뒤직도 가지고 긴지 그래서 낭가기 긴지 대한 뒤마셔체 어쨌든 뒤마셔로 뭔지 과야도 그래서 뒤급소소로 자는 조금 있다.
Now, the wisdom Dharmakaya, or the deep awareness corpus that encompasses everything of a Buddha, is something which is it's not something which we can say is unaffected by causes and circumstances. We have to say that it's something which is unaffected by karmic impulses and disturbing attitudes. But also we can understand it from the third sense of unaffected, that it's unaffected in terms of its way of appearing, in terms of sometimes appearing to the side of disciples and at other times ceasing from appearing to disciples. So it's not like emanation bodies or form bodies of a Buddha, which sometimes from the side of disciples appear to them and that at another time will disappear or perish to their sight. It's not like that, and so it's unaffected by this type of appearance aspect. So we have to understand what unaffected means in various situations according to the context.
순지 머주야데 가르치고 왔으려나 띠무되기 바자 디디 왕기 아니 가시고 그게 냠시 ren저지를 두고 열 봐. 봐. 딱 조치시다 가서 직선한다. 시제 집에 왕기. 다 시집의 왕기 냠시 ren저를 줘야지. 냠지 렌저를 집에 그돌라 튠지 주거든 매치 다 냠지 렌저 용야기 깬자 아니 니나 집에 지마디 산소나 아니 잡아담지 냐월 시위 니시 인된 것도 제용도 가서래 개개 타다 냐월 시위 인데 그냥 튠지 주베 연된 차용 지상 시월 최기 구신실 튠지 주지 샤워 주스
The second of the qualities is that it spontaneously accomplishes all, and the reason for this is given as because it has a serene, stilled corpus encompassing everything, it is spoken of as spontaneously accomplishing all. So, when we spoke about it being unaffected, it's unaffected in terms of arising and disappearing to the minds of others. When if something were to spontaneously accomplish all, it would not be something which just appears sometimes and then disappears. That wouldn't be able to spontaneously accomplish all. It can only spontaneously accomplish all if it is always appearing. Now, if one has not achieved a serenely stilled in corpus encompassing everything, in other words, if one hasn't achieved a Dharmakaya in which we have stilled the instincts or the propensities for things to appear in a discordant manner, then if we haven't done that, if we haven't stilled these things, then what happens is that we can only intermediately be in total absorption or in subsequent realization. We can't have the two constantly simultaneously. If we have the two intermittently, sometimes we have one and sometimes we have the other, then we're not in a situation in which we can spontaneously accomplish all because we are intermittent, we are not constant. So the fact of it spontaneously accomplishing all, the reason for that is that it has this wisdom body, Dharmakaya, corpus encompassing everything, which is serenely stilled of the state of appearing only intermittently because of not being able to have simultaneous total absorption and voidness and subsequent realization.
소소 랑게 떡셔시 신기견이 떠면 봐시네 대대비 가시오래다 대대비다 나단데다 대대비다 나단서래 대대비다 정신데 소소 랑리비 이식이 주유마도 상제 남편조 권해 주유 전에 다 소소 랑리비 이식이 주유 그러시사요.
Then the third quality, it's not realized under the circumstances of others, is explained as because it is to be realized by each one individually, which means that this wisdom body of a Buddha is something which can only be understood among the Buddhas themselves, or realized individually among themselves, and cannot be something fathomed by those other than the Buddhas.
대단놈숨 떡시 켄신 대달다 가소래 가이나다 다 정신 단 저기 다 공간다다 정신 남다다 루부 남다게 다 전체도 원원도 규벽관에 배 지머시신 켄이 다 잡아토지 냐월 시외 대니 가사 지삼네 지민한다 냠지人造뭐 임벌다다 냠지人造뭐 임벌라시 영원히도 자네 시자 지도와도 진입아 탐자로 시자 가서 캠베 이시 찌기 뒤께시 찌글라 지도 진입이 되면 최 탐자로 켄투 영원히도 자네 대단 농숨 떡시 켄스다 캠바 탐투고 나와레스 람든신나 툭자와스 당연히 그냥 타고 들어가 대단 농숨 떡시 켄스
Then it possesses omniscient awareness and constantly. Because it has the two simultaneously, it has awareness of both the extent of what exists and also the manner in which everything exists. So because it has this aspect of all the obscurations to being aware of everything removed, which was causing the subsequent realization and the total absorption to be alternating, because that's removed, it's able to be aware of both the extent of what exists and the way in which all exists simultaneously, and so therefore it has omniscient awareness.
람든신나 툭자와스 shengi madobo togwe chedo da lam yonso tabde shirego lam yonso zoba simjengu kamda mebada sambar tembe china tukzawas.
Then the next quality is it has intense loving concern, and this is because it indicates the paths of the mind. And so because this state is one which possesses deep, intense loving concern for others, love, compassion, and so forth, and indicates the paths of the mind with this type of state, then it is said to have a heart of intense loving concern.
감도 몇번 나서고 왕래 아니 덤바지기 지 추주 담면의 망고지 송샤디 야고지 셰윤데 아니 추룬 담면들이야 respect야 들 시라핑거디.
The fact that the Buddha is able to teach, a Buddha is able to teach in accordance with the aspirations and dispositions and idiosyncrasies of all different disciples with one single teaching, with one single expression, this is something which shows to us that the Buddha has great respect for each person.
No, not that way.
It brings great respect.
Once you understand or realize, you see, that thing, that you see, there's so many different teachings within Buddhism, you see, happen because of so many mental dispositions, not Buddha's own knowledge. So you see, in reality, maybe one, but because of this so many mental disposition, so you see, Buddha compelled to speak something different views. So once you realize that, this is very much helpful to develop deep respect for all different religions. Clear? That is it. Nuba yeshi. That is nuba yeshi. Tuji dunge nyumu pongchiros. That nuba yende karesla nuba seade. Shenji dunge tang dunge tin duji ki nyumu pongyage. That nyumu pongye tap doyage nuba chasang nuba ta tatuko yedeba tela nuba segiwaris. Dindeti shenji dunge juda cheba pongyade kangawanga yunguyarislamna yeshi to tuji sundun jebe kwane yunguyaris. Jidoga.
And it has powerful abilities because it can bring about the riddance of problems and disturbing attitudes. So having these various qualities of omniscience and intense loving concern and so forth, the state of Buddhahood is one with the powerful ability to be able to bring about the elimination and the riddance of others' problems and disturbing attitudes. And how can it do this? It does this because of or through its deep awareness or its omniscience and its compassionate, sympathetic heart. So that is the explanation of the Buddhas.
Di yaguji pada shabaliya da holusheni pani yobeina yagusheni pani shabaliya namjigi da namji liunibe kamne tharba tuya gariba namji tuya gariba didigang da jagwa yarisha.
And if this were to be explained well and extensively, if there were a lot of time, then this should be explained in connection with the discussion in the second chapter of Pramanavartika. That's a commentary on what is valid, in which it establishes the existence of liberation and establishes the existence of omniscience.
Tadine chögi chösade krizis sigarislamna ani samdo mebada nisu mebala sogwe ta yende gyadan demas yende gyadan dembe chös.
Now the next is the discussion of the preventive measures or the Dharma, and this has also 8 qualities of being unimaginable without the two and so on.
Dayang tagi nashin sheni desan sum sheni de turn tu tell mingi ten te ini mingu pakaso train mata shenya.
And this is presented in the text in the same method as we had in the previous point about the Buddhas. So the first verse, verse 9, presents the meaning in a summarized form. Then the next verse, verse 10, lays out the names of the various points which are being made. And then the following two verses, 11 and 12, put together the words or these names of the points together with their meanings as had been presented in verse 9.
강시 매미 여미 여미 마인 여미 레션 동안 다브라 메뉴 니시 당저 소소랑게 릭시와 지미 이시 외스는 낭된 미국군의 차과당 당다르리 남버는 점자 담주님은 달란지 삼명님이 또면과 다세님비创意 강시 관계 차대와 대니 천이 전대 최 차전인의 과과도 남지 담바다게 두세 대내 구름 지신 대다자 연대 숨숨 지리차特시 강도 단대샤登明吃的居民吃拍外天气三名你三多百八十那搞的是什么呢他洗了他是康东阳大概难明白吃堂子登明吃堂子找到多外都是早外出去绝对没法明白吃堂子拍过人你说让日本千百语音别吃三多没法意思
So the verses read, I bow to the sun, which is the hallowed preventive measures, which is neither totally non-existent nor truly existent, neither both truly existent and non-existent, nor something other than either truly existent or non-existent, which cannot be intellectualized, is parted from words to make it definite, must be known individually by oneself, is a serene stillness in which is stainless, is a deep awareness having illumination with rays of light, and destroys any attachment, hostility, or murkiness regarding any focal object. The preventive measures are that which is unimaginable, without the two and without conceptual thinking, and that which is something pure, clarifying, and on the side of being an opponent, brings this about. In other words, what is and what brings about a parting from attachment and has the defining characteristics of the two truths. What is involved in being parted from attachment can be summarized under true stoppings and true paths of the mind. The order in which these are to be understood should be known in terms of the qualities 3 and 3. Because it cannot be intellectualized, now this is referring to the quality of it being unimaginable, which was referred to, which cannot be intellectualized in the first verse. Because it cannot be verbalized is referring to the fact that it is parted from words to make it definite. In other words, it can't be pinpointed down with words. And because it is known by the highly realized, it is unimaginable. It is something which must be known individually by oneself, because as an ordinary being, one cannot understand or realize it, but it's only something which can be known by the highly realized Aryas.
This one, some of us are this one. 이게 안 돼. 대니 천이 전에 최사 대니사 담반이 있어. 쭈쭈듯이. 쭈쭈듯이 패치 담반시 난게 남상게 담반이 있어요다. 다 담반시 셔요 봐. 담반시 난게 군의 유무 초게 담반이다. 남상초게 담반이요 봐. 디와 남상초게 담반이부 되게 천이 전에 있어. 야, 안다 되게 있어야 군소 담반 전담 담반사게 담반이 있디 말다. 니서 말해.
So at the end of verse 10, when it says it has the defining characteristics of the two truths, these are the two truths out of the Four Noble Truths, referring specifically to the two truths on the purifying side, referring to true stoppings and true paths of the mind. So you should not understand this as referring to the two truths in the context of the two levels of truth, the relative and ultimate. It's not referring to that, it's referring to true stoppings and true paths of the mind.
That's what means. Nimi is and Shiva Nigichina, Nisumabas, Shini Nimis. Lada Nyumumbeta, Gundo Shiva Nigi, Nisumabas. And it's to me, Yiji, Topamabas, Sami Nimi, Tomabas.
It is a serene stillness since it is without the two. This is referring to, without the two, referring to karma and disturbing attitudes, or impulses and disturbing attitudes. And it is stilled, it's a stillness because it is parted from them, and it's without conceptual thinking. This is in verse 12, by the way, because it is without any incorrect consideration. So it doesn't consider things in an incorrect way, so that is the meaning of being without conceptual thinking.
Then takso sumni nishinos cheni asati takse nyembu cho ni gisi게 takbada sawada enkargo 문배 년보슬이다. 타바다 싸와다. 년배 초니 슬라니. 다 간다. 타바다 싸와다 년배 초디스. 다 배는 니머신도 니머는 시리스는 벨자한. 다 개면도 왔지. 가수래. 랑신이 다 가수르게. 시 문셔로 매베다 타바. 엔디 싸와. 그러니까 문배 년보 쳐봐. 다디 쳐봐 개면도 다디 되게
Then verse 12 ends with the line.
간다 되면도 다 간다 고den시아 윤도선에 봐. 고den시아 윤도선에 타자 뇽문배 집어 착배 집어서지. 뇽문배 집어서. 시제 집어 톡배 집어서지. 아니야 가셔란다 민집사지 시야용기. 다 전에 야면은 착배 집어도 톡배 집에 타고 당신 싸웠어. 아니 대다하게 년별 초니 스는 남된 고용도 와. 저기나
So the last line in verse 12, the three, purity and so forth, are similar to the sun. This is referring to the three qualities in verse 10, pure, clarifying, and on the side of being an opponent. And these three are similar to the sun, the sense that it's pure and that it's purified of the various obscurations, the mental obscurations. This can be referring to the obscurations which are disturbing attitudes, which here are called the obscurations of attachment in this text. Then there's the obscurations which are with respect to all knowable phenomenon. Here they are referred to as the obstacles of being impeded or impeded about all knowables. And the third set of obscurations is sometimes referred to as the obscurations of the modest-minded ones. And so since it's purified of all these, then it's able to be clear, like the sun, to make things clear. So that's referring to, when it's the purity side of it, is referring to the true cessations or true stoppings aspect of the jewel of Dharma. And when it says it's on the side of being an opponent, that's referring to the true paths aspect or side of the Dharma jewel.
랑신기니 영다시 묘모되네 사실로 시저터도 떡을 탐지 캠베 주니니 심지어 탐지 라이어도 통지신이 여바니 대대 떡과 간이도 소소랑시 통하니 있잖아 어디마 임러도 재미있는 참매도 통매 치지 다고이 이시시버다 당연히 오늘 대샤스다야 나라도 딱이 봐 sabje 투도지 다지로 놓았다.
The next set of verses.
No, dima lonjigi. Jimi ying de chame de tome chi de tawa yi shi si bo tawa de sanje yi shi la me chi. Pa kwa chimi do bo de lu jin ku ji jiao yi no si de sha sha de.
So the next verses is referring to the jewel of the Sangha, or the intent community. It starts with verse 13. I bow to those who see that since awareness has a self-nature of clear light, the disturbing attitudes have no true essential nature, who, by realizing the perfect, namely that all that wanders lacks a true identity and is serenely stilled of extremes, see that total clear-mindedness and full evolvement permeates continually in all, who possess an attitude that is unobstructed and who possess the sight of deep awareness that has as its object limited being's total purity and infinitude. Because of its sight of deep awareness, which is of how things exist, the extent of what exists, and which is inner, and because of its purities, the assembly of those with a knowing attitude who never turn back is something that possesses peerless qualities that are corrections of inadequacy. Because it realizes that what wanders has an actual nature that is serenely still, it is of how all exists. And that is because, since by self-nature it is perfectly pure, their disturbing attitudes are finished from the start. Because it sees with an attitude that realizes the ultimate thing to be known, that the actual nature of an omniscient awareness is present in all beings whose awareness is limited, it is something that has the extent of what exists. Any realization like this is something to be known and then seen by each one individually. Because in the stainless sphere there is no attachment and no impediment, it is pure. Because due to its sight of deep awareness and purities, there is the peerless deep awareness of the clear evolved, the highly realized who never turn back are a source of safe direction for everyone with limited bodies. So there's not much time, so there's no need to really explain this. The next verse, verse 19, there is a presentation of three sources of safe direction in terms of the ones who indicated, their indications, and the ones who are training, as this has been made under the influence of there being three vehicles of the mind and those with fervent regard for three types of actions. So this is a discussion of why there are the three refuges, the three jewels.
rangi chungju rangi jajumbe gobango do chene da dambe qualia dadaji taduk miyu desha kurang debut kebrati da dicheni kindun di sha sha ran sanje gi damba meben nego da munge shidwa damba meben nego zhenge mebe che damba da zhenge ine da kyaba kedo kada damba mashube nego liya kurang rangi 당가르 덤베 중에 당마 퇴셔버디 랑기 냠린 체니 슈고 랑기 근데 자주베 고방건도 제인도 랑중국 관에 자주베 고방건도 체니 최장장 거 타는 건도 제가 마도 덤바지기 슈고 땡기 매버체 대 인도산에 랑게가 원도 체니 최디 저기라샤 그래서 나 전주 선배 셔도샤와 심정을 통다로 산지지 고방 통도년이 제가 인도산에 대원도 제베 저기도 산게샤 다 소소라 뒤저지진 숨기 소소 대접디 딘데지 샤니 대단 제레 딱 그게 가슈래 지기 변의 긴dun을 차와제 지기 취할 차와제 지기 상계를 차와제 대왕도 전에다 다들 차와체로 다들 땜베 되는 지 대로 꾸르에 되는 지 다들 조 대로 꾸르에 되는 시가 있나 세븐 메시다게 제네와 간다 태고 숨기 왕체네 세니 겹숨 나버 샤고 인스티 소리
These presentation here of the three sources of safe direction or refuge is in terms of the sources taken from our own future results. Before we were speaking about resultant refuge, or taking refuge or direction from the results that we ourselves will attain in the future. And when we describe in terms of that, then there's the presentation of the three jewels in terms of the three types of disciples and the type of results that each of them are aiming for. In other words, we have the Shravakas, or the listeners, and the listeners are aiming for the situation in which they're practicing and aiming towards the situation in which the Buddha himself, or a Buddha, has come and is present, and they themselves, through their own type of wisdom and understanding, with their own type of motivation, wish to or are aiming to become a member, to become arhats or liberated beings, and thus to become a member of the entourage or the circle of those around the Buddha. So in this way you have the presentation of the Sangha, or the community jewel, in terms of this being the resultant aim of the listeners. Now for the self-evolvers, or the Pratyeka Buddhas, these are ones who are practicing at the time when Buddha is not present on the earth, and during those times of difficult situations, famines, and so forth, then they wish to be able to achieve the various, their own state of arhatship or liberation by means of practicing the Dharma or the preventive measures alone. And so the ultimate aim or main point upon which the whole self-evolver or Pratyeka Buddha path revolves is the point of the Dharma itself, the Dharma jewel. And so you have the presentation of the Dharma gem in terms of the self-evolving Pratyeka Buddhas. But when we turn to the Bodhisattvas, those with a vast-minded, expanding heart of bodhicitta, they are aimed at their intention, and their heart is expanding out to all limited beings or sentient beings, and they wish to achieve the state of a Buddha in order to be able to help them. And so in terms of their aspiration, there's the presentation of the Buddhas, or the state of clear evolvement. So it's in terms of these three different types of practitioners: the listeners, the self-evolving Pratyeka Buddhas, and the vast-minded Bodhisattvas, that we have the presentation of the three gems, or the three sources of safe direction, in terms of the future results towards which each of these three types of disciples aim.
Now
there are also provisional sources of safe direction or refuge. But if we speak of the deepest level or ultimate source of direction, this is the Buddhas alone. Now, the reason for this, why the ultimate or deepest level source of direction is the Buddhas alone, is explained in the next verse, the next verses, because it is to be got rid of, is referring to the This is referring to the scriptural indications of the Buddhas. In other words, there's scriptural teachings, and these are things which one has to rely upon. But once one has relied upon them, the scriptural indications, and actually gain the realizations and so forth through them, then one no longer needs to rely on these scriptural sources. And so therefore, the Dharma, in terms of the textual preventive measures, is not an ultimate source of refuge, and therefore it's said to be because it is to be got rid of, the first line of verse 20. The next line of that verse 20, because it is an item that is fallacious, this is referring to the realizations on the mind stream of highly realized bodhisattvas or Arya bodhisattvas. They have a level of deep awareness which is not the ultimate level of deep awareness, and it is not the deep awareness that actually is what is going to be brought into the state of enlightenment. So that level of realization type of preventive measures or Dharma is not an ultimate source of direction or refuge, because it is an item that is fallacious. It's not the ultimate deep awareness.
두근 매바쌈기 쳐와 두근 시점기다 다가다 지 두근 야와 시워쌈기 두근 시점기 때문에 샤바 인도자네 대양이 더두게 말했어.
Then the next reason is because it is a non-existence. This is referring to the true stoppings or true cessations on the mind stream of the Sangha. Here referring to the liberated beings or the Arhats, in which they gain a release without residue or nirvana without residue. And that's referring to the mere cessation or stilling of the true problems and true sources of problems, the first two truths, on their mind stream. So it's a non-existence merely of that, and that is a reason why it is not an ultimate source of refuge either. Then the Arya, so the true stoppings are not, that aspect of the preventive measures are not an ultimate source of refuge because they are just a non-existence. And then referring to the jewel of the Sangha, this is something which is also not an ultimate or the deepest source of safe direction because it has fear, it says in the text. That's referring to the liberated listeners or Shravakas. They still have on their mind stream the obscurations to being able to know all knowable things. And so in that sense they have fear, and in that sense they are limited and do not have the ability to give us or to provide us with ultimate or deepest level safe direction.
담배ton도 아니 산지 냐지 담배 가서다 겹터도 드레스 봐 아니 투버 취지 구전시 소장 대에 터도 치스 다데 아이나 다양나 디진베니 원하는 대부 산지가 살이야 아니 디 가소래 단답에 접들어야 다 단답에 접지 뭘 줄땡에게 이 초숨 요말 bes잖아 뒷매백견 요말이스 가라슬나 투버 취지 구전레스 투버 산지 준된데디 취지 구전레스 로드자네 취구 취에데도스 그봐 소장 대이 털도레스 다 소하게 밀로백긴도 차디야리스 소 털도도 차디야리스 근데 인도 디니 가서 단답에 접지 뭘 주베 산지 취긴 눈숨 도스네 그냥 선된다 가르고 한다
Then the text continues, concludes that verse, because of these four reasons, the preventive measures and their two aspects and the highly realized community are not continual supreme sources of safe direction. So, on the deepest level of fact, the source of direction, the deepest level source of direction for wandering beings is the clear evolved ones alone. And now it gives the reasons for why we should not think that since it says here that the clear evolved ones or the Buddhas alone are the source of direction, that there's no presentation of the three refuges or the three gems, that the other two are eliminated because it said that the clear evolved ones alone, the Buddhas alone, are the source of refuge or safe direction. And it says because the able ones have a corpus that encompasses everything. In other words, the Buddhas themselves, although they are the ultimate source of direction, they possess the other sources, they include the other two gems, in the sense that they themselves have a Dharmakaya, a corpus that encompasses everything, so they include the Dharma refuge. And because they are the ultimate endpoint for the intent community, in other words, this is the endpoint or the aim, the ultimate thing, this attainment of enlightenment, which the intent community of the Sangha is intent upon or heading towards. So this is the way of commenting according to Mucho Tome Sangho's commentary.
다전에 다 벽에 나면 군초 써야 돼. 관배 쳐 사실 구겨야 돼. 다 되게 된다시는 거야.
Then the next verse, verse 22, explains why they are called the rare and supreme gems.
다들게 애는 라라우도 중어 관배치다. 주마매배치다. 투다 대배치다. 지든지 견도 주배치다. 천이도 주배칠 다 요매배칠 애는 군초 시다 그랬다.
And this is easy, one just has to read it, because their occurrence is rare, because they are stainless, because they have strength, and because they become adornments for those with a perishable basis, because they are what is supreme, and because they are inalterable, they are the rare and supreme gems. So of the 4 diamond-strong or vajra points of the furthest everlasting stream, this concludes the discussion of the first 3. And the next one, the source for clear evolvement, or the Buddha nature, will be discussed tomorrow. Has this completely bored everybody? Is it so tough?